Hello and welcome to Unshakable with Human Design. I'm your host, Nicole, and it's just us today. And I want to talk. We are wrapping up my Authority Accelerator Masterclass, and Business by Design doors were opened this last week and a half. And I've been welcoming new members into our Business by Design mentorship. And it's been really, really fun and very, very exciting. And this is one of the things that has come up over and over and over again through this masterclass, through the people that I've been talking to on clarity calls. And just whenever I'm swimming in something, I feel like it's my duty to bring it here to the show. And if you're listening to the show, you probably are an ambitious person. You're probably somebody who is looking to grow. You want to change your station in life. You are somewhere and you're like, I don't accept this. I want to create my life. I don't want to be just a passenger in life. I want to have a say in the intention of where I'm going. I want freedom. I want to feel like my business supports me. I have really big goals and really big dreams of how I want to live and what I want to create. And I refer to this as like shifting to a higher timeline. I'm going to go through a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to talk about human design's role in shifting to this higher timeline. We're going to talk about the silent killer in your business, because these are just things that I have noticed over and over and over again now, having worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs. Like, how do we make these shifts? How do we change things? How do we go from good to great, right? So we're going to talk about the silent killer in your business. We're going to talk about how human design shifts this thing better than anything, shifts this silent killer, how human design plays a role in this, and what it really takes to shift to your highest timeline. What does it really take to change the results that you're getting in a really big, meaningful way? How do you quantum leap? How do you go from, like I did, how do you go from making like $50,000 a year in your business or something to making 250 within like just a couple of years? How do you shift that quickly? How do we make these big changes? I went from doing $10,000 to $15,000 months to doubling that in 1 year. That was a big, big shift. And I'm going to talk about what kind of the come to Jesus moment that I had to have with myself about what I wanted to create, how I was showing up. Because especially if you're going from good to great, if you've already had some success, but you haven't maybe been able to sustain it, or you haven't been able to break through a new ceiling that you have, it's not going to be necessarily these big obvious things necessarily. It's going to be rather subtle, the things that you have to change. You're going to have to start to really notice what it is that you do, your behavior. You're going to have to notice how you show up. So I'm gonna break all of this down. And first, before I do, I want to just say that I have a lot of empathy for people who are in this phase of, I don't really know what my next move is. I don't know what that is. I have had many downtimes. I have had many big shifts, many come to Jesus moments where I've really had to examine what's going on. And there were times where it was the outside world. I was like, it's this program didn't work for me. This thing didn't work out. These people didn't show up. The clients aren't there. I haven't figured something out. I would be looking at outside things to explain why things weren't working. And so I have a lot of compassion for people when they're in this place, because it's very difficult to read the label from inside the bottle. And I'll be honest, I had some great mentors who helped me, but a lot of times, a lot of the people that I was hiring were these really big people with these giant programs, and I never talked to them. So it wasn't until I started doing some certifications, it wasn't until I started hiring people at a higher level and really getting into rooms where I was like, I want to know that I'm talking to my coach. I'm not talking to an underling coach, that it's someone who can actually help me, because I can't see my blind spots. And that's what I'm paying for. I'm paying to transform. That's what I'm about. That's what I need. I don't need more tactics. I've got those coming out my ears. But that's a very safe place to go, because if it's the tactic, if it's just the strategy that I need that's not working, then it's not me. It's so much easier to look at that. If I just have to figure out how to write an Instagram caption and do that every day, that's way easier for me than really looking inside at why I'm not showing up, or why I'm attracting the things that I am, or why I'm creating the same negative patterns that I find so painful. How am I creating them? So, so what I want to talk about, I want to go into all of this. I want to, this might be a little bit messy. I have some notes, but I really want to dive into this because I had big goals. Let's just start there with having a big goal. I encourage everybody to have a really big goal. You should have a big, hairy, scary goal. You should have something that stretches you, because it's going to require you, even if you want, that saying, shoot for the moon, aim for the star, aim for the moon, settle for the stars. That is kind of how you have to be. You have to shoot so far, because in order to move to the level that you need to move and change to the level that you need to change, you need to stretch yourself so that you can settle for the stars. And you know what? Sometimes you get the moon. Sometimes it works out that way. And there is a formula to that. It's just one that a lot of people will not really commit to. They really won't show up for. So for instance, like I have a goal every year. I always set this crazy goal of like, I'm going to double my revenue. And what that does, doubling my revenue, I mean, that's big, especially when you start getting into bigger numbers, when you're going from, 200 to 500,000. That's a big difference. If you're like, oh, I'm making $250,000 this year, I want to make 500 next year. That's a big shift. I told my mentor, I just signed up for a new mastermind, and she's like, what are you doing now? And what are your goals? And I was like, I am at about 300,000 for the year, on pace for that. And I want to make $1 million next year. And I'm like, I know that sounds insane. And she's like, it doesn't sound insane. You can absolutely do that. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I can't. It's insane, but I'm going to settle for whatever is. If I get anywhere near that number, I will be like, I'll blow my own mind. And she's holding that vision to say, no, that's possible. I did that. I went from 300 to $1 million in 1 year. So one, having somebody that can hold that vision for you and can say, this is possible, you can do it. Here's what that's going to require. So, but when I say that I want to double my revenue, I know when I'm saying I need to show up, and I talk to people all the time where they'll say, sometimes people get on breakthrough sessions with me, and I ask them what their goals are. I say, well, where are you now? And I say, what's your goal? And they'll tell me, they'll be like, I want to make, I want to do like $30,000 a month. And I'm like, cool, where are you? And they're like, I'm at 5,000. And I'm like, that's fine. You can do that. We can absolutely do that. But that's going to require a big commitment from you. And they get shaky on how they will show up. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to work too much. I want to work 20 hours a week. And I'm like, we can certainly work toward that. But it will require you to show up differently. The hours, you might be able to work the 20 hours, but that means that you are going to have to show up in those 20 hours as the absolute best, highest version of you that's possible. So how do we do that? And I always say, like, I say to potential clients when they come to me with this, or even people inside my programs, and I say it to myself. I want to be really clear. I say this to myself. If I have an extraordinary goal, it's going to require me to do extraordinary things. I'm going to have to do something very different than what I've done before. I'm going to have to trust at a bigger level. I am going to have to move at a more powerful level. I'm going to have to do different things, and I'm going to have to show up differently to the things I'm already doing. I'm going to have to play a bigger game. And that's where I then say, well, where am I not playing a bigger game? And then I ask myself, okay, well, who do I need to get near? Who do I need to be in proximity to? Who do I need to learn from in order to raise my frequency and raise myself just in my daily activities? How do I raise my energy and raise like my level of commitment in my business to this level? Who do I need to be next to? Who do I need to run with? Because I do want an extraordinary life. I do. And I have to recognize that I can't just sit on the couch and expect that to show up. I can't just have a dream and expect it to knock on the door one day. I'm going to have to go after it. So now where does human design fit into all of this? So human design, let's just talk a little bit about for just a second about how where this maybe gets a little screwed up with alignment. Some people will talk about alignment and they think that alignment means they're not doing anything uncomfortable. That's not true. Alignment simply means, or misalignment simply means that you are doing something out of pure pressure or out of, the openness in your chart. If we're talking about human design misalignment, you are going against your grain. It doesn't mean that you are always comfortable. It does not mean that things always work out. It means that you're in alignment with your process. And if you're in alignment with your process, then you can trust that process. I always say, I don't know if things are going to work out when I take a move. So I just invested in a high ticket mastermind. I just did that to someone I did not have a lot of experience with. I was not in her world for long. And I was like, I just sense that she's the person that's going to raise me up in this particular area that I have been playing small in for a while. And small for me, I'm doing really well. But if I want to make $1 million next year, if I even want to say that goal out loud, I just said that recorded here, right? If I really want to go after that, then I'm going to have to put my money where my mouth is, literally and figuratively. I'm going to have to show up bigger. I'm going to have to really look at these places where I have shrunk or I have played small or I have gotten too comfortable and get uncomfortable. So I specifically joined this woman because I'm like, I think she's going to stretch me, push me, and expand me in this one specific area. Everything else from her, I don't really need to know more. I'm just like, this is where I need growth. So how human design fits into all of this, I got a sacral yes. I felt a yes. I felt a yes, this feels right. This feels good. I get excited. I get ideas when I'm in her presence, when I'm listening to her talk, when I'm in her group, when I'm engaged with her stuff. I am feeling lit up. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling satisfied. These are my signature tells, right? I'm also an emotional authority. I sat with this for a bit. I did not jump right in as soon as it felt good. I got really clear and then I sat down with my husband because I don't ask permission from him once I've made a decision. But I do consult him because one, whenever I make a large investment, I believe he has the right to know we are a partnership. But also, I have made investments without telling him in the past. And I vowed both to him and to myself, but mostly to myself, that I would never do that again. Why? Because I brought shame into our relationship. I brought secrets into our relationship. Suddenly, something that I shouldn't feel bad about, making an investment in my business with my business's revenue, reinvesting in my business, suddenly now I make a deep, dark secret. And because what? I'm afraid that he'll say no. Then maybe I don't feel comfortable enough in my decision. Then maybe I'm really not in my alignment. Human design, how this shifts you to a higher timeline, let's just talk about this a little bit. Manifesting, shifting to a higher timeline. I refer to this because when we want to choose a new future, right now we have to make a choice to start making decisions as that best version of ourselves, as that next level version of ourselves. So what's going to stop us from doing that? Usually fear. Usually fear that we're going to bring uncertainty about making an investment like the one that I made. We're going to feel uncertainty about maybe bringing on a new team member. There's all these things that we might have to do that feel like they are scary. And what human design can help us do is it can start to help us build trust in the very basic thing of making our decisions. Because I make decisions according to my authority, according to my strategy and authority, I'm not questioning. So let me just back up here for a second. A lot of people, myself included, have been burned in the past or feel like they have been. They've made investments and they have not paid off. They have not gotten a return on their investment. I've been there. I have not gotten a return on many investments, or so I thought at the time. Once I started to get into alignment with my design and I started to shift myself, once I didn't have the resistance that I didn't even know was in me. I thought it was the outside world. I thought it was the programs. I thought it was the strategies that I picked up. But the truth was, it was the operator. I was the operator. I was running an old operating system for brand new apps, and I hadn't upgraded, so they were buggy. They weren't working. So when I started to unravel my conditioning by doing the deconditioning work, when I started to open myself up, then I started to get different results with those exact same things. But before that, we sit in uncertainty. We sit in lack of trust. We don't want to make the investment. We don't want to make the change. We don't want to do the thing that we know in our heart is correct, because we're scared. We're scared that we aren't worth the investment. We are scared that the industry is a bunch of liars. We're scared that we can't make it. We're scared that the clients don't exist. We're scared that social media doesn't like us and the algorithm is going to screw us and we're never going to figure it out. All of these things we have a lack of trust in. That's really all fear is. Fear is just, there's actual necessary fear, like I fear for my life, so I'm going to run because there's something chasing me. And then there is lack of trust that things will work out. That's the one that stands in the way of entrepreneurs skyrocketing their results, right? Lack of trust is at the center of everything. And in entrepreneurship, trust is not an option. It is necessary. It is pivotal to your success. Because when you come to make a decision and you've got all of those voices, the voice of your shame, the voice of your fear, the voice of old coaches and these people, and maybe your partner telling you you're not worthy of the investment. Oh my God, is this going to be another one of those things that doesn't work out for you? All of that is feeding usually shame and guilt, which are, very close cousins. But we have all of this, it's triggering us to shrink, to be scared, to not move, to not go in the direction of our dreams, and to stay where we are. And then maybe you make a lower cost investment because that feels safer, but it doesn't shift you, it doesn't change you, because you didn't change you. You picked up another strategy. I say this because I've done it. I say this because I've been there. I am not saying this from a place of superiority. Quite the contrary. I'm saying this because I have done these exact same things. And I've realized that it's the bigger investments that, one, I can't turn away from. The ones where I have so much skin in the game, I'm like, I will not allow myself to fail here. One. Two, that's where I will get the level of support that I need. I will get somebody pointing out my blind spots. But this lack of trust is the silent killer in your business. Because what it really results in, when you lack trust and you show up and you do like the lower ticket program, or, you go back to like the old programs that you have because you're trying to find a way around it, but you haven't really shifted internally, what you get is half-heartedness. What you get is a lack of commitment because there's a lack of trust. Commitment is more than just showing up. You don't get points for coming to class. You don't get an attendance award in entrepreneurship, unfortunately. Just showing up is not enough. It's unshakable commitment to the person that you're becoming. It is, I believe no matter what. I commit no matter what. And you get to such a deep level of commitment to yourself that the failures don't shake you as much. Why? Because you have to work through all of that shame that was causing you to shut down when things didn't work out. This is why entrepreneurship is an inner game first. There are strategies, there are tactics, there are ways to make more money, there is messaging, all of that stuff is valid and necessary. But the one thing that is not, it's a total variable because every person is different. But it's the one thing, there are millions of strategies out there, and some of them might be your favorite, some might work for you, some might not. But the one thing that is not optional on the table is that you have to upgrade yourself at every single level that you want to reach. You have to commit at a deeper level to yourself, to your goals, to where you're going, and to letting go of the things in your past and in your energy that are holding you back. At every level, you are going to face yourself. This new level I want to achieve, I know there's going to be strategic things I have to do, but I'm going to have to try lots of things. I'm going to turn the dial up on lots of stuff, and I'm going to have a level of belief that they will work. So I'm showing up in the energy of it's all happening. And I have to have the resilience to say that if it doesn't happen, I don't make it mean anything about me. I can't do that if I'm carrying guilt, shame, and fear, because I'll be too triggered to really sit and trust in those moments, to say that even when it doesn't look like it's happening, it's happening. I trust that I'm showing up in full and total devotion, and when I show up in full clean energy and belief that what I want is inevitable, that I will either get the result that I want or the lesson that I need, I do. It all comes to me, even if I can't see it right now. That's the level of trust I'm talking about. That's the level of trust. And some people say, like, I trust, I'm committed. But then something happens in their business. Something looks like, it's not going to work out. They have a failed launch. They have a payment that fails. They have somebody who asks for a refund. All of these things, and they fall to pieces. That's not trust. That's a trigger. And if you have a trigger, you've got to know how to deal with it. And this is where human design and the deconditioning that I do, like where we go deep into the deconditioning, we go deep into really rewiring your nervous system. People talk about regulating your nervous system, and that's awesome. Regulating is great, but you can't regulate until you've cleared it all out. Do you know what I mean? Regulating is a moment-to-moment thing, but you're just coming back down to like whatever your baseline is. And if your baseline is mildly triggered or easily triggered, then you're just bringing it back down there and waiting for the next one. If you're not dealing with those triggers and going deep enough to really deactivate them, where you're really creating inner change in yourself, you're expanding your energy. That's what it is. This is, while not complicated, we are complex beings, and it requires work. This is why I don't just have strategic programs. I don't have just energetic, because I believe that you need to be doing both in tandem to have that fast-paced growth that we all want to be on. We want to be on that higher timeline. It's going to require you to do different things. It's going to require you to try different things. It's going to require you to show up. When you fall down, get up quickly, get up strong, work through whatever you feel so that you can show up in the energy of, I get what I want. I'm in the energy of what I want, not what I don't want. I'm in the energy of expansion, not contraction. That is belief. Manifestation is really just unshakable belief that what you want is already yours, and consistent, intentional, inspired action in alignment with those goals. I want something, I know it's already mine, but you have to believe that to the level of your energy. It's not a thought. That's where people get stuck. We think that it's a thought. But anybody who ever affirmed I'm a millionaire in the mirror every morning would be one by now, if that was all it took. It's not change your thoughts, change your life. It's change your thoughts, which change your feelings, which changes your energy, which changes your life. But that's harder to say. And it's harder to do. Because this is where the beliefs come from. We can rewire beliefs, but you can't do it at the cognitive level. I've seen way too many smart people totally tricking themselves into thinking that they don't have these beliefs. Oh no, I don't think that. I don't have that. I'm like, well, you keep attracting it. It keeps happening. So are you sure you don't believe that? Or are you maybe in your head? And that's part of the problem. You have to be in a place where people are you have somebody who has been where you want to go, who can call you out on your shit, who can show you what the road looks like ahead. I always say that having a mentor is like driving down a dark road that you've never been down. And when you have a mentor, it's like you put headlights on and they're shining the light so you can see down the road and you can see where you're going. It's much safer and easier to get where you want to go when you can see where you're going. They're the guide. So I hope that this inspired you to choose your highest timeline, because when you do that, you have to choose it now. Because things don't show up the second that we show up. Again, this is another thing of like commitment. We have to commit to doing the thing now, doing it tomorrow, doing it the next day, doing it every day, energetically showing up and physically showing up. Putting our best self into our work. If I want to get an extraordinary result, I'm going to have to show up as an extraordinary person doing extraordinary things. I'm going to have to do something that scares me in order to get something that is outside of the realm of my reality right now. That's the commitment that we need. And we have to show up, and we have to show up for that possibility. You got to wake up every day and be like, it's possible, and feel that in your bones. It's mine. I feel that in my bones. And then you show up and you do the work. And I see this all the time. People show up, do the work, and then they're like, is it here yet? Is it here yet? Is it here yet? And I'm like, that's not trust. That's conditional belief. I can't see it, so it's not happening. You have to believe when you cannot see it. You cannot wait to see it to believe it. That's the normal timeline game. You want to be on the higher timeline game, you have to believe it before you can see it. And you have to believe it so much that it comes through in your energy, that you wake up feeling it, that it feels like it's yours, even though it's not. You're grateful for it already, and you show up every day like it is yours. That the commitment is to that level. That's what changes your life. And that's what I work at every single day. And that's the standard that I hold my people to. That we have to do this. This is how we change. This is how we shift. And you can do that with human design, because human design is building trust in yourself, in your process, not in it has to be this way because this coach taught me this way. And if it isn't this way, then it won't happen. Oh no, I changed something because I'm a projector and I'm not going to do it like they did it, so it's not going to work. No, you have to trust in who you are. You have to trust in the way that you do things. So when you change something, you show up being like, this is going to work. I either get the result that I want or the lesson that I need. You show up with that level of belief. The difference is that when you show up fearing that it won't work, that's the energy you're in. You're in uncertainty. And uncertainty brings you things you don't want. You get lessons and challenges rather than the results that you want, because you're not believing to that level. You haven't energetically gotten there. That's the energetic game. And that, quite frankly, for the non-sacrals, that game is even more important for you, because you're incredible manifestors when you do it. If you can get past all the noise in your head telling you it has to be another way, and all the fear that kicks up. I'm going to leave this here. I hope that this inspired you to take an action with true devotion in your body, to trust yourself, to stretch yourself, to make a move that the version of you who is on that highest timeline would be thanking you for right now. We're at the end of this eclipse portal. And this is very much, if you listen to my episodes with Christina Luna, this was one of the exercises she gave us for this eclipse, was to write a letter from your future self to your present self. And what are you thanking her for doing today that got you to where you ended up next year? What are you thanking her for? That's what I wish for you, that you can get in the energy of it's already mine. It's already here. So much so that I can project out a year. I can visualize that and I can thank myself right now. I'm going to write myself a letter to Nicole in September of 2025. And I'm going to thank her for making that choice that changed our lives. I'm going to thank her for showing up a certain way. I'm going to thank her for making the shifts and doing the scary things and for showing up when it wasn't working and for believing when she couldn't see it, because we ended up here. That's what I wish for you. So go write that letter to yourself. What are you thanking yourself for? And I hope that you can believe that in your bones and that you're making decisions that are equal to your highest self and not the version of you that sits here now listening to this. I hope this inspired you to shift to that higher timeline. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design. We'll see you next time.